Get you some international news tonight. And Muslims across Asia and Africa and, of course, the Middle East are calling for boycotts of French goods amid tensions over Islam's place in French society. So since the beheading of a French teacher who showed his pupils caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad during a discussion about free speech, there have been 3 more attacks. French authorities are treating the latest one, an attack in Nice that left 3 people dead, as an act of terrorism. Let's speak more about the relationship between France and Muslim-majority countries now. We're joined by Naeem Jeenah. He's director of the Afro-Middle East Centre, joining us by Zoom or Skype, I believe, Naeem. So it was the killing of the French teacher Samuel Paty that set off tensions between France's President Macron and mainly, at the time, Turkey's President Erdogan. That's now been heightened by the attack in Nice this week. How would you characterize the French-Islam relations tonight?
Well, I think that Macron in particular is really going out of his way to inflame tensions with Muslims. And firstly, with Muslims within his own country, French citizens who are Muslims, but also the broader Muslim world. I mean, the attacks that took place, the ones that you spoke about, Samuel Paty as well as the attacks in Nice, were clearly and admitted by French authorities the act of individuals. They were not working together, they were not working with any organization, and to reduce it in the way that Macron has to Islam and to Muslims generally, which is what he's doing, is a real problem. And I think that the kind of response that you're seeing from Muslims in different parts of the world will probably escalate as his rhetoric escalates.
Well, he did, on the day of the attack in Nice, President Macron, when he went to visit the scene, call for unity. Just today, he's done an interview with Al Jazeera where he was saying, in fact, what everyone in France, regardless of religion or creed or race, needs to remember is that when there are acts of terror in the country, those attacks are on French society as a whole, whether you're Muslim or not. Does that help in de-escalating the situation?
No, it doesn't really help, because if you look at the totality of his comments from the Samuel Paty to after the Nice incident, but also before that, his comments about Muslims in general, and just before the Samuel Paty incident, he gave the speech where he spoke about liberating Islam in France. This, I should say, is a kind of standard stock French language when they speak about Islam for the past 200 years at least, about liberating Islam. At one stage, France actually spoke about being a great Muslim power because of all the colonies that it was going to control that were Muslim majority colonies, just as it regards itself as a great African power, because to this day, it controls many African governments. I mean, France has a terrible colonial record. If you remember a few months ago when there was the port bombing in Beirut, Macron went in and started issuing instructions as if Lebanon was still a colony of France. This is the kind of thing that sticks in people's minds, not an interview on Al Jazeera. His actions about, he was deciding, or he was trying to decide, who should be in the government in Lebanon, for example, just as France decides who would be the president of various African countries, where they would put their money, what currency they would use, etc. So the French kind of colonial example continues to this day. 2 of the big targets of that colonialism are Muslims around the world, including in France itself, and Africans. And in France itself, whatever he might say to Al Jazeera, the fact is that the ban on particular kind of dressing, etc., is targeted against Muslims, as however it might be portrayed.
Okay, very quickly then, Naeem, how do we then resolve the issue? Because there very clearly exists an issue of radical Islam in Europe, and that needs to be addressed. So what is the solution?
Well, firstly, I don't like the term radical Islam. I think that particularly as a South African, I think radical is a good thing. But certainly there exists a problem of extremist Muslims. And they need to be dealt with as criminals when they commit criminal activities, like the case of Samuel Paty, like the case of Nice. These are criminal activities. People responsible must be dealt with. Those who support those who are responsible must be dealt with. It must be clearly stated that this is criminal and unacceptable by everyone.
Naeem Jeenah, director of the Afro-Middle East Centre, thank you for your time tonight.